What's up, everyone? Chris Manning here. Evan Dammerall is with me. It's Locked On Cavs podcast, your daily look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. Today, it's a Larry Nance Jr. focused episode. We're going to talk about the trade revisited. We're going to talk about Wednesday's Blazers game, and so maybe a favorite Larry moment or two from his time with the Cavs. Then at the end of the show, Mike Richman from Locked On Blazers comes through to talk about what Larry has been like for Portland so far and why it's been kind of a weird start for Larry as he, goes to a new team and plays in the kind of environment he seemingly wanted to. But that's all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. Remember, we're free and available on all platforms. And this episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by McDonald's, which has been serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get affordable food. It's an unofficial community center. A big thank you to McDonald's for always being there. And Evan, gotta say, I'm loving it.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Evan, Larry Nance Jr. makes his return to Cleveland as a member of the Portland Trail Blazers Wednesday night. His first game back. Before we'll talk. I'm going to let you pick dealer's choice, Evan's choice here. It's Finnegan's birthday after all. We got to celebrate our 4-pod king, who you made a cake for. What a king! Respect to my King Finnegan. I know he's a real rascal, but he's a mensch. That's my guy.
Stop patronizing him, Mister. I would never have a cat.
Look, I'm not a cat person, but I respect the cat.
Neither was I. The full Finnegan origin story for the first 2 weeks, I didn't know if I wanted him. I would wake up in the middle of the night because he was literally smaller than my hand, and I thought I was gonna break him when I touched him.
Yeah, it'll happen.
And then just one day it clicked. I'm like, you know what, man? We're thick as thieves. Now he's my homie. Every time I walk around, I'm like, what's up, handsome? What's up, little man? Yeah, I made him a cake for his birthday, and I'm looking at it right now. The little shit had 3 bites and then went to bed, and he's been sleeping all day. And I got him several toys and a cat perch, which he broke. Then we had to do a weight check this evening. He is 18 pounds, ladies and gents, at a year old.
A little thick with the 2 C's, eh, Finnegan?
Yeah, according to the doctor's weight charts, that means he's on track to be about 25 pounds when he's fully grown. So I'm going to have a sedan for a cat soon. I'll ride him to Cavs games, like nice an Appa or something.
Yeah, got a nice, good. That's a good pull. Very good pull. Very good pull. We're off to a wonderful start. Evan, where do you want to start, though?
Choice?
Yeah, do you want to start with the trade? Do you want to talk about his return? What do you want to do?
Let's talk about his return, because I can tease that we're pushing this on Wednesday morning-ish. Mm-hmm. So I'll be putting out a story. I had an exclusive with Larry and some of the local businesses he impacted. So the trade itself, you and I kind of heard murmurs for a while that the Cavs were trying to make moves to upgrade. And then you look at their available assets. Like Kevin Love was not a tradable asset, but Larry Nance Jr. is a name that always people circle back to, and a lot of people who cover other teams, who are personalities that are fans of other teams. I know Cigar Trika, who had him on the show once, he reached out to me saying hey, what would it take to get Larry Nance Jr. in Portland? And I'm like, honestly, it depends on how much the Cavs are willing to take for him, because that's the thing. And for the longest time, teams like Phoenix, teams like Denver, teams even like Brooklyn, or even the Lakers and the Clippers too, were all interested in acquiring Larry Nance because, and you'll talk about this Mike later on, how he's just been struggling with Portland right now, but Larry theoretically makes a ton of sense on a lot of teams because he's a jack of all trades, master of none, but it kind of depends on the situation and what you ask him to do. So the trade itself kind of caught me off guard. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it. I do wonder where this Cavs team would be at right now if they kept Larry and didn't acquire Lowry. I wonder how the spacing would. Do you think JB would start Larry next to Mobley and Allen, or do you think he'd stick with Okoro in that situation? There's a lot of there's a butterfly effect for sure of what would happen if the Cavs didn't trade it. But Chris, what was your initial reaction to this trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we go back, it was a little bit surprising. I found myself in the last couple of days really just thinking about I've really thought about how it's interesting to me that like you could see him fitting into this team like pretty well and sort of the identity they carved out if he was kind of willing to. But we obviously know he said publicly in the letter he penned through Cleveland.com that he wanted to get traded and go play more competitive basketball, and that's what obviously happened. I also have been thinking about the other possibilities. Like I remember spitballing trade ideas with people about the Suns, and this was like Brennan Clean, but like people that work in the league, and they'd be like, well, like Phoenix might offer like a first, and then like try to offer like Jalen Smith as like their second first, and it's like good. Just they didn't do that because it'd be a bad first and a guy that didn't get his option picked up and is going to be a free agent after being a lottery pick. So
Well,
like,
would it be a bad first with how Phoenix's season's going so far?
I think they'll probably be fine. Like,
I know.
and like
They gobsmacked the Cavs the other night. I shouldn't talk too much crap.
yeah, I trust Paul and Book and they'll figure it out. But like, it's not. I think the trade ultimately, like, if you got to get, even if you could see how Larry would fit, and even if you could see how that sort of worked, I think that's cool. I think it will be cool to see how he's received upon return. It's funny because like he didn't spend like as much of time as you would sort of think. It just like the last couple years just felt so long due to the world, due to like the transition out of the LeBron era. Like he was on one like a good Cavs team and like the worst one of the second LeBron era, no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then is on some bad teams for a couple of years, and he's like one of the bright spots. He does the really good work. As you're gonna, I know you talked to him about it. I've talked to him about it before. Like he's done really good work in the community, and it means something to him, and that really endeared him to the population. And there's people within the Cavs organization that, if you talk to him about it, he goes out of his way to like really praise a lot of people within the organization, including a friend of the pod, Jimmy Longo, who like was one of the people taking photos of him before games, like to make sure he could get that imaging out. Like it was a whole process that was. Not just him, but he was the face of it. It's just interesting that like I could see a world where he's like a better fit for this team in some ways than Markkanen, even though Markkanen's the better shooter, and you could see him maybe playing the three with Mobley and stuff, and how many arms and stuff that group would kind of be. But at the same time, like I think if he's a guy that wanted to go, and you got a guy who like wanted to get a chance to rehab himself in a new place in Larry Markkanen, who's a little younger and everything. Like I get how we get here. It's too early to say like who won or who lost.
Oh yeah,
but it probably won't. It doesn't go that way. But it's just kind of funny that it's just like I don't think I feel differently, but I've just been thinking about like how Nance being flipped for something was something we talked about a lot and the possibility of it quite a bit, and that ended up being like Lowry Markkanen in that was just kind of interesting.
Yeah, it really was, and I also go back to the fact that Larry Nance keeps mixed his name, put Larry there. Larry Nance would make a lot of sense in Chicago, but I think it's interesting. You're going to talk about this again with Mike teasing the segment again, like how he's looked in Portland so far. I've been quietly watching from afar because I've always just been a fan of Larry Nance as a person, and I enjoy watching him as a player too. When he's really clicking and he's in a winning situation, I think he is very good. And I think some of the things he unlocked in Cleveland made him even better in terms of playmaking, defense, shooting. Like I said, jack of all trades, master of none. Like that's not an insult. He's a very valuable commodity in today's NBA in terms of what he brings to the table. Like there's a reason why Zach Lowe initially reported, then you and I kind of heard rumors of it too, and murmurs of it. Like a lot of contending teams were constantly reaching out to Cleveland to ask if Larry Nance Jr. was available. And the Cavs just kind of definitively said no. And their hand was more or less forced when they Larry just approached them and said, "Hey, I want to be traded and play for a team, play some meaningful basketball." I'm interested to see, like you said, there's no clear winner or loser right now. Like it's a 3-team deal. So you have to look at how Chicago's doing too. And I guess Chicago's making out gangbusters right now because they're one of the best teams in the East. And I guess those 2 picks they got are in cash or the best things they're the clear biggest winners of the trade if you want to look at it that way. But I'm interested to see where this goes. I think this is beneficial for both. Like you said, I do think about too the defensive upside between Nance, Okoro, Mobley, and Allen, like just those 4 together, like that's so good defensively. And then like I think about how the Cavs run that play where like Sexton or Garland initiates from the top of the perimeter and they throw it to Mobley at the elbow, and then they have a cutter along the baseline, whether it's Sexton or Okoro or even Allen sometimes. Like Nance would be perfect in that role too, like operating with Mobley in that sense and like kind of like unlocking his playmaking a little bit. It's interesting. I'll tease this in the story a little bit too. Larry really talks about how he wants to retire in Cleveland, and he was kind of vague on purpose, I think, where he said yeah, I want to retire in Cleveland. So I don't know if that means when he retires, he'll live in Cleveland, or when he retires, he'll be back in Cleveland playing. So
The former would seem to be easier.
a lot. Yeah, I agree, but it also wouldn't surprise me if LeBron James ends up retiring a Laker, but Larry Nance Jr. comes back to the Cavs and has like a goodbye tour, like the Channing Frye goodbye tour, where he doesn't play at all. And then the last game of the season, he puts up like 10 and 10, and like Colin Sexton's great nephew finally cracks 10 assists at that point, and then we all go home happy against the Hornets. So, and a loss nonetheless. And Larry drinks his IPA in the locker room. He gets kind of drunk. So,
Yeah.
well, no, it has to be tolerant to his Crohn's disease, of course. But
Yeah. But Evan,
it's all good stuff. And it's all love between Larry and the Cavs. But you know what else I love, Chris? Today's sponsor, McDonald's.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said, this episode of Locked On Cavs is brought to you by McDonald's, who have been proudly serving communities since 1965. McDonald's has always been more than just a place to get tasty, affordable food. It's a place where friends and family can come to reconnect. It's a place where classmates can meet up for a study group knowing they'll have dependable Wi-Fi and endless supplies of French fries and McFlurries. Win or lose, it's a place where teammates, competitors, the home team, or the away team can come to recharge. And it's the place you always look forward to stopping at on a long road trip for you to rest your legs and refuel. I also personally love McDonald's, much like Cleveland's own Kid Cudi does, because in the song Wasting My Minutes, he says, I say what's up, she says the sky. I say what's good, she says McDonald's apple pie. And I don't know if you guys are diehard Cudi fans, but his perfect order for McDonald's is 2 cheeseburgers, an apple pie, and a large Coke. None of that ice, though, because he ain't got time for that. So if you want to refuel, reconnect, have 2 apple pies and 2 cheeseburgers like Kid Cudi, come on down to your local McDonald's. Did somebody say a Locked On Cavs watch party? Chris Manning's loving it.
it's true. It would go to that McDonald's could go good with a certain grape something. If you know, you know. But anyway, Evan, let's move on to the game. Well, real quick, I'm going to ask you, Larry Nance Jr. over under. How long is the tribute video? I'm going to say set the over under at 45 seconds.
Well, what's the full length of a timeout's 90 seconds? Like a full
but like,
timeout?
is it I don't know, but like, it's not probably going to be the full timeout. I'm saying, do you think it's going to be like a quick one, a long one? Like,
I say 45 to 50 seconds with 20 to 30 seconds fit in for the appearance on the Humongotron with a standing ovation for the raucous crowd on a Wednesday night Cavs game.
Yes. The other thing that I will ask is, do you have a favorite Nance moment? We'll do this quick because we'll talk about the game. We know this game's going to be a little weird, but for you, is there
it's easy. It's the Mason Plumlee, Patrick Starr dunk, or Miles Plumlee, whichever Plumlee it was.
The thing that I still don't understand how that
I still don't either.
I want to know what hero made that
when he runs away. I bet you it's like a former editor of the Clutch Points graphic team who just
probably
had a fun
Judah, dude. It's probably Judah. Judah's just a meme lord.
Wait, our friend Judah, the regular.
Yeah, I'm just betting. That's actually it's actually Judah. We just didn't know he was a meme lord. He just creeping in the internet. Mine is, I think, honestly, the most fun game he ever played with the Cavs is probably that first game in Boston. And it wasn't even like he did a lot in that game kind of thing. It was just like the vibe on that one was cool, because I just remember those couple
super cool because they were in Paul Pierce's jersey retirement.
But I remember watching the videos of him coming into the tunnel in Atlanta, because everyone remembers they flew to Atlanta. Those guys, Clarkson and those guys, met them in Atlanta. They couldn't play yet because they had to do physicals and stuff. But there's a video that the Cavs social team put out of Larry like walking through the hallway and dapping someone up and being just like very clearly excited that he was about to be suiting up for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And the Cavs played like 7 or 8 guys in that game, and I think they won. And
they won on February 9th, my birthday. I watched that at a Hilarities in downtown Cleveland.
Wow. And then they went to Boston, and then they beat the crap out of Celtics on Paul George's jersey retirement night, and that they were just like extremely fun. And that was like among the apexes of that Cavs season. But yeah, I think that's it. And I think there's like a bunch of dunks and stuff. I think him going to the dunk contest that year was cool. I think the dunk, any kind of just yammed on someone, it was pretty cool. But I think that first game might be the actual apex of the Nance here, because that was like the best team he played on, and maybe the high point of that team in some regards. But Evan, let's look at this game. Isaac Okoro, according to the latest injury report, is out for a 5th straight game with a hamstring injury. Kevin Love obviously out as health and safety protocols continue. So, I mean, I guess like, if you were able to look at JB Bickerstaff and say, hey, this is a tweak I would make based on how things went in Charlotte. Was there any tweaks that you would make to the rotation, to the who you'd want to see play? Anything you would want to kind of maybe see as an adjustment coming off of Monday?
Well, they certainly let LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier be bombs away from 3 in the second half. I necessarily wouldn't want to tempt the devil when it comes to Damian Lillard and even CJ McCollum at that point. So maybe shore up their perimeter defense a little bit. It's certainly going to be a lot harder with Isaac Okoro out. Maybe you see some more Lamar Stevens minutes, and hell, maybe even Dylan Windler if he's in shape, crack some minutes too because he's a big enough body. But yeah, other than that, maybe tell Evan Mobley not to get posterized by Larry Nance. I know Larry's probably disappointed because he can't yam it on Kevin because Kevin's out for health and safety reasons. But yeah, other than that, just kind of not let Dame and CJ get bombs away from 3 because Dame has really struggled up to this point in terms of shooting. You don't want him to kind of find his niche against the Cavs, like let it happen against their next opponent. So yeah, man. Other than that, I feel like this game is kind of winnable for the Cavs. I really do in my heart of hearts. Like Justin Rowan in front of me of the program, and we might be going on the chase down soon, folks. So get used to our ugly mugs on there. He pointed out today that on that West Coast road trip, more or less opponents were shooting a league average in terms of 3-point shooting. Like they weren't having career best numbers against the Cavs, which is encouraging to say the least because they're playing like pretty good teams to start the season. Portland's not as good as those teams, I'd say, but they're not bad necessarily because they have Damian Lillard on their roster. But I think that's encouraging that the Cavs are playing competent enough defense, and I hope they continue this trend against Portland.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think for me, it's just like I would like to just see the rotation go beyond 8 guys and functionally 7 guys, right? Like I understand that if JB is like, the Lamar Stevens weekend wasn't great, play Dylan Windler. Like I think I understand if you're saying, okay, here's the guys that I trust right now. I need to play them. This to me is a situation where I think you got to try to play some of your other guys. I think you got to not play Evan Mobley like 40 minutes a night this early in his career. I don't think that's exactly like optimal. I think you want to like play the long game here. So with a pretty young team. And I just frankly, I think it would be good for Dylan. I think it would be good even for Lamar. I think it would be good for all these guys that you need to figure stuff out about this season to play. And I just kind of think it would be useful IMO to like do that and not just basically play like 7 guys and play really, really heavy minutes. Like just let's space this out a little better just to see what we can get from other guys. That to me is I just want to see if JB does adjust at all coming out of Monday's game, which they won. And they're coming off this long road trip. They've certainly been traveling around a lot. They don't have like a multiple days off until after Monday. They get a couple of days off after Sunday when they play in New York. They get a couple of days off. But this is the team that just went on a 5-game road trip. They're home for one night only, and then they play Friday on the road and they play Sunday on the road. So like they've had a long stretch here where it's a lot of grind on the body. They've played some close competitive games. They've played some back-to-backs. Like I think just play more guys just for the sake of like keeping your team a little fresher as we go. And just as a note, for the year, Portland, according to Cleaning the Glass, 13th in net rating as of Tuesday night at around 9 p.m., 5th in offensive rating, 27th in defensive rating. Excuse me, 5th in defense, 25th in 5th in offense, 25th in defense. A point differential of plus 1.7 per 100 possessions, but they're 3 and 4 on the year. That's a 45 win pace, and in win differential versus like what you expect them to be at that number versus what they are, they're 27th in the league in expected wins. So that's where they are. We'll see if the thing that could change this game is just if Dame Lillard, then like this game's tone takes like if this is the Dame breakout game, which Mike will talk about after the break. Will be a fun time. But again, after the break, Mike Richman. Real quick. We're on.
Do you think if the Cavs lose, do you think Colin Sexton's dad will post an 11-minute video on Instagram showing his lack of touches every game?
Hope not. Anyway, after the break, Mike Richman from Locked On Blazers will be joining me, and Evan and I will be back Wednesday after the game. We're having a nice pot up. But first, got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar onto the market. Look, Evan, I love Thanksgiving. We got some new copy here. All of the good food and treats and plenty of them. But maybe you want a yummy dessert that isn't so full of calories and sugar. It's the perfect time for Built Bars. It's the new holiday dessert. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. Look, one slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only have 4 grams of sugars with plenty of protein. So replace that coconut cream pie with a coconut Built Bar, or go for a raspberry Built Bar instead of that raspberry pie. They're covered in 100% chocolate. They're a great option for when you're hungry. So go for a Built Bar or go for 2 and share some at your family gatherings. It'll make things less awkward. Maybe your Aunt Betty hasn't tried a Built Bar yet, and now she can try one. New surprises all month. Limited time flavors arriving at Built.com regularly. So check the site often. And look, there's nothing like Built Bar Black Friday out there. So mark that calendar because Black Friday is going to be a huge event for Built Bar with all sorts of new surprises. Go to Built.com, promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 50% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. And got to tell you about our friends at BetOnline, and they're back then better than ever. They have a new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all the basketball and football action this season. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON to receive that bonus. From basketball, football, baseball, postseason action. The World Series could be over soon, though. NHL, boxing, UFC, and right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. Remember, BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. That's BetOnline, and that's where the game starts. Okay, up next, Mike Richman, Locked On Blazers, talking about Larry Nance's fit in Portland so far. And again, Evan and I will be back after Cavs Blazers, diving into that game and all that it entails. All right, last segment of this Wednesday episode of Locked On Cavs, joined by the past first point guard of the Locked On Network. It's Mike Richman, the host of Locked On Blazers. Mike, what's up, buddy?
Oh, living the dream. You already know. Watching a bunch of score first point guards try to morph into my role as pass first point guards out here in Portland, man.
Yeah, so Larry Nance Jr. obviously makes his return to Cleveland on Wednesday, the one time he'll play in Cleveland this year. What has the Larry Nance Jr. experience been so far?
I mean, the number one word is limited. We just haven't seen a bunch of Larry Nance. He's playing a lot less, and he's not playing. They have very, very limited chances for him to play backup center. He's playing almost exclusively power forward. Like if you just look at his per 36 numbers, they're relatively similar to last year in Cleveland, but he was playing 30 minutes a night. Now he's playing 19. So that's the big difference. He just hasn't had as many chances to do what he does really well, which is be a dribble handoff specialist. They just haven't given him enough playmaking chances for my money. I'd like to see him have more chances to do that. He's good. He plays with energy. He's mostly a positive when he's been on the court, but they're not unleashing the Larry just yet.
So is it he's not acclimated yet? Is it just a scheme situation? Is it a Chauncey Billups is like not vibing with what Larry does? Like what is the situation kind of like there?
I think some of the problem is that Cody Zeller has been good. So they have a backup center who's been playing really well, and it's hard to say, okay, the solution tonight is less Cody Zeller because he's been one of their most dependable players off the bench. So then it's like, okay, the math is now that if you're going to play Yusuf Nurkic and you're going to play Cody Zeller, the spot for Nance is in that second unit. But then also with the second unit, they're trying to get backup point guard Anthony Simons to run the offense, and they're trying to make him into a point guard on come hell or high water. It's like we're now in year 3 of demanding that Anthony Simons become a backup point guard. So there's just the playmaking opportunities and all those things. They're not there for Nance, and so like the way he's going to be impactful right now is just be an energy guy, and energy guy, whatever, capital E, you only get so many opportunities. You get to go try to get rebounds and make plays. And there's been some moments where he shows what he can do, but like sort of carved out big, like high usage or even just like small usage minutes aren't really there for him.
What has we live in a weird world with media availability, so like it's not the same. Where it's like you could go ask him in the locker room right now. I assume it's like it's Zoom. It's if you're in person, it's like it's very different. For it's not as easy to let's just say to go and like grab a guy if you have like one question you want to ask him if he's not made available for whatever reason, and obviously COVID protocols, etc. But if and when Larry has spoken, has he said anything about like how things are going, like how he feels? Like, have you heard from him very much about that so far?
I have spoken to him one time,
Okay.
and this is a nice little anecdote. He was trying to leave. The way they do it is like the PR people like intercept the guys from locker room to
Mm-hmm.
exit, and the vets know that there's an exit before that you can go out the back. But the new guys like Larry Nance, he doesn't know. He doesn't know about that back hallway yet. So he made the mistake of having to do media. And so he was actually literally, he said, "I'm ordering Applebee's. I got dinner coming. I gotta go."
Larry,
Um, he was ordering
Applebee's?
boneless wings from Applebee's
Oh my
in
God.
one of the great food cities in America. But hey, what dependability,
Look, but
dependability.
just consult your. This is like half the reason. Get in touch with like the beat reporters who are like on the younger side of things, because like they will tell you where to go eat. They will be like, hey,
Yeah,
oh, we'll get you away from the Applebee's. We'll get you like the place where you can get good wings in Portland, or like whatever you're in the mood for. Like we can direct you places.
I
Larry,
would have helped
my
him,
boy.
but this was our
Yeah.
first interaction, so I mostly was just like, "Hey, what are you ordering?" I'm curious. So he's ordering Applebee's. He's on his way home ordering dinner.
Oh my
But
God.
it was like he was like basically today. It was after his quote unquote best game. It was against the Memphis Grizzlies last Wednesday, and he looked good in that game, no doubt about it. It was his most impactful game by far as a Blazer. And he said it basically like, "I had to find a way to get some good old fashioned 2-point baskets because the way the offense worked, they're kind of like spreading, like running a spread pick and roll with Zeller as the screener a lot of the time, or running dribble handoffs where you're spread out a little bit." Is that most of Nance's offense was coming as a spot up shooter, and that's not his game. It's just not. It's just like he can shoot, but he's not a stretchy spot up four. That's not where he's going to be best. So he was like in
Mm-hmm.
that specific game, he was like, I was just trying to hunt twos, cut back door, work the baseline, get some twos, get some dunks. And that was his best game by far. So I think really it's like, 6 games in, he's just trying to figure out where his offense is going to come from. I don't think he's frustrated. He wears his emotions on his sleeve is one thing I like
Mm-hmm.
about Larry. He'll yell at guys on defense, which I enjoy. But I think he's still he's not mad or frustrated as much as he's just like, okay, this is an adjustment. How do I be my best? And he's still kind of figuring out that math.
Well, and it's also, and you can test this better than anyone, but it's been a better, or I should say, a slower start to the year for Portland. It has not been like gangbusters at the gate for them under Billups, with everything going on with that team and everything. I'm sure that has some part in this too. It's just like this isn't like an operation that is like hit the ground running and is succeeding in the way they probably hoped under a new coach with bringing back Dame and having all the other guys they've had for a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, he even said like he was like after that game, he was like, "This is Chauncey's first gig. He's been an NBA head coach for 4 games. He's like, I've worn this jersey for 4 games. Like it's early, and like obviously I want it to be better, but we have to be real about what this is." And their defense has been ahead of their offense, which is really bizarre for this particular team. I expected them to be one of the top 5 offenses in the league and one of maybe the bottom 10 defenses in the league, and they've been a little bit worse on defense. They're like kind of middle on the road on both so far. And I think the offense, they're just having a little bit of having trouble getting acclimated. And Damian Lillard is shooting bricks, and if he shoots bricks, it doesn't the rest of the wheels aren't going to be greased the same way.
So to just look at the team as a whole, first, as you mentioned, first year under Chauncey, some new pieces, but Dame is back, CJ's back, Nurk is back, Covington's back, etc. What has changed under Billups and what has stayed the same?
So the offense, they're running a little more egalitarian. Before it was just matchup hunting. They'd come down, you call up the pick, you get the matchup you want, and let Dame and CJ kind of cook that matchup, and then you play off of that, right? Like if you get the switch, you get to work it, and if not, you kind of move the ball around. Now they're trying to move the ball around first, put Dame and CJ off the ball a lot more, particularly Damian Lillard off the ball a lot more, run a bunch of offense through Yusuf Nurkic as a facilitator, and it's been mixed results. Mostly the results have been Damian Lillard shooting under 24% from 3-point range as the time we're recording this. The offense is going to look better when one of the best players in the NBA makes threes, but there's some functional stuff with the offense that's different. On defense, they're just playing more aggressive, higher out on pick and rolls. They played almost exclusively drop coverage in the past 5 years. They're coming higher out on pick and rolls, which means they're more aggressive in their help defense. Sometimes it looks really good. Sometimes they look like a team learning a new defense. They've been pretty up and down. When they've been good, they've been spectacular, and when they've been bad, they've been awful. So it's hard to know which team you'll get from night to night. But the inconsistency is kind of checks out with like who this team has been and also new coach stuff and all that.
Yeah. All right. So let's wrap up. Give me one sort of under the radar, maybe a nerdy basketball thing, maybe just like a thing you've noticed from these first couple games that if people want to like tune in on something kind of detailed on Wednesday night, what should they look for?
Okay, two things. One, CJ McCollum was the leading shot blocker among players under 6'5" heading into tonight's games. He is becoming a I don't know if good defensive player, but a stat heavy defensive player. He's a young Dwayne Wade, former Cleveland Cavalier great Dwayne Wade. He's a young Dwayne Wade. He's 30
Kev's
years
legend.
old.
Obviously, never played. Did that very small stint in Miami. Was part of the Three Alphas, but obviously defined his legacy in the great city of
As
Cleveland,
a
Ohio. Yeah,
exactly. So he's CJ McCollum is like at 30 years old. CJ McCollum is a 22-year-old Dwayne Wade. I think is how that works. But yeah, I think that's something to watch. The other sort of basketball thing is that the Blazers have the Blazers are one of the leading offensive rebounding teams in the league, and the Cavs are gigantic. So if they can punish a gigantic team, they can be pretty good. But one of the problems with being a good offensive rebounding team and fancying yourself as that is the Blazers are a terrible transition team. So I think the balance between being an elite offensive team and getting those extra possessions versus giving up leakouts and giving up transition points is sort of the real balance for this Blazers, the new look Blazers under Chauncey Billups.
yeah. I think this game will be kind of interesting. There's a lot to dive into I think frankly, these two teams are both kind of weird. They're both kind of funky. I would expect a very large Larry Nance Jr. Tribute video just because like that's what we do here, even though like I was like going through like his Cavs legacy and it's not exactly like robust by any means. Like he was on one good team for half a year and then was like on some of the worst teams in the league. So it's just a vibes thing, but it's going to be fun. Dame is obviously just Dame in person is just for me one of those guys that like you get it's just even if he doesn't play well, it's just kind of like there's something cool about seeing Dame. And
yeah, I would be a little worried that the Dame breakout comes in Cleveland. He hasn't had one of those games where he's like, oh, this is one of the 10 best players in the NBA.
yeah.
And I think the potential for that to happen against my beloved Sexland backcourt seems like it could happen.
Well,
Could be
gotta say,
possible.
the popcorn moment of this game for me will be anytime Evan Mobley switches onto Damian Lillard in space, and
Oh,
we
yeah,
just get to see what that looks.
absolutely.
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know, like if Dame is like among the craft, like he's so skilled, he's so good, he's gonna like find ways to like navigate that. But Evan Mobley is just like 7 feet of gangly arms and length, and he's really annoying. So like. I just that to me, like this game could be like just that for 48 minutes. And that to me, honestly, let's go. And
Yeah,
it'll be fine. And Kevin
I'm
Love
looking
like shit
forward to it
talking
too.
Larry Nance. And Kevin Love shit
Yeah,
talking Larry Nance will be
Kevin Love asking about real estate in the greater Portland area.
he's
Should those rumors ever come to fruition?
yeah, just the whispering post game is like, hey, like Larry, A, is there a spot? Can I get some minute? Maybe like, is there a spot for me? And B, like, don't eat at Applebee's, my guy. I could have told you where to eat if you could have asked me. You
Yeah.
know me. But anyway, check out Mike on Locked On Blazers. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Smash that subscribe button, as we now say, because we're kids and that's what we do. Just smash it. But we'll be back. Evan and I will be back with a full recap of Cavs Blazers here on Locked On Cavs. And everyone, be well.